And because greatness means something different to everyone, it was less about what greatness meant and more about the recipe for greatness and sharing what I thought the recipe for greatness was with the world in practical ways, in ways that are not only theoretical, and being able to have conversations with people where I can show them and speak to them about the ways in which that applies to them in their lives uniquely, ultimately to show that it's not really that unique. You think that there's a big difference between you and the person that you believe to be extraordinary, but there really isn't. You're more alike than you are different. But I also wanted to be cool. And cool to me was being significant. Being significant was this thing that I was doing for others. This symbol that I would be for others. Thinking that if I was that symbol, then I would get love. I was pursuing love through significance as an abandoned person. The only thing in my life that was consistent that I felt never abandoned me was music. So I would be that same gift to others. I would create music. Maybe the challenge today, at least what I'm finding, is that we live in a Google era. It seems that people are having a harder time looking within themselves because we've grown so accustomed to being able to Google everything we want to know. Where the things that we should want to know most are the things we can't Google. And understanding that it adds pressure and alleviates the pressure at the same time. Is there a mission for your life? Of course there is, if you care to acknowledge it. Because in a lot of our minds, tomorrow is an illusion. It's not real yet. You never really get the opportunity to live in tomorrow. You only get the opportunity of living in the now. So as much as we know it's there, to a degree, it isn't, because you never get to live there. And if you never get to live there, then it's not really coming. Only today is real, and only yesterday is real, because you've experienced it.
Why do you think why do people procrastinate?
In my experience, people procrastinate for two reasons. One is fear, right? Fear of going for whatever it is that they want, because they fear the process, or because they actually fear achieving it, and they fear the success attached to it. They understand that the success will change them and encourage them to be something different, and they don't think that they're ready to make that shift. So why even try if you're not ready to actually stand in that position accordingly? That's the idea that some people have. Another is an illusion that you have time. It's almost like an arrogance, that tomorrow is guaranteed or next week is guaranteed. And we know that it isn't, but we don't necessarily act that way. Oftentimes there's not that sense of urgency that comes along with a true belief in tomorrow not being guaranteed. So we put it off. Either thinking we have time, or defending some limiting belief as to why we're not ready for whatever it is that we know we should be pursuing, that we're not currently pursuing. And sometimes it's, you have started the process. That's not procrastination, just because you haven't achieved the goal, or if there's something that needs to happen before you actually achieve the goal. That's not procrastination. It is procrastination to purposely put something in front of the goal that doesn't necessarily need to be there. But it takes experience to know that it doesn't need to be there. I used to do that. There was a time when, because I didn't feel prepared, I would pursue, the prerequisites that would help me to become more prepared for whatever that thing was. but it was really fear. It was me feeling more prepared to take this step toward the prerequisite or the imagined prerequisite, because it wasn't really a prerequisite. I was making it a prerequisite, as opposed to just going directly for the thing that I wanted. So sometimes it's fear. Other times it's not embodying the idea that tomorrow is not promised. And so you embody a certain level of urgency because you want to get the most out of the time that you have today.
Let me ask you, do you think fear of failure is real?
I think we make it real. Like, when you mean it's real, do you mean, is it something that people truly experience? If that's the question, then yes, people truly experience it. They truly experience fear. Definitely the fear of failure. But fear itself is an illusion. So it's only real if you make it real. It's like an urban legend. Right? The more you believe it, the more it becomes real. Yeah.
I think what people are also scared of is giving it their all
Yes.
and still falling short.
Absolutely. But there's always two goals at hand, because you're always working on two people at the same time. You're working on the person that you are and the person that you're becoming. Right? So what are the two goals? The two goals are actually achieving the thing you set out to do and actually achieving giving your all. Achieving giving your all is working on the person that you currently are, exhausting every resource that the person you currently are can fathom. Actually achieving the goal is a gateway to you working on the person that you're becoming. So there are always two goals. It's never just I'm doing this thing and this thing. From a larger perspective, you're always working on the person that you are and the person that you're becoming. Because you don't become the person that you're becoming without working on the person that you are. You don't get to actually achieve the goal without actually completing the process. There's always two goals.
So then in that sense, giving it your all is kind of like achieving.
Indeed. Giving something your all is an achievement. Definitely. You may not have actually achieved acquiring whatever material good you were seeking, or whatever validation you were seeking, like winning the World Cup, for example. But if you gave your all on the field, you're a winner.
But then you said achieving the goal is the gateway to becoming. What did you say, man?
Achieving the goal is a gateway to you working on a person that you're becoming.
So then what happens if you don't achieve that goal?
Inadvertently you do. because you already maxed out. You already felt what it's like to max out on what you have. So if you give 100% today, the 100% that you give tomorrow is actually maybe 1% better than the 100% you gave today. But because you're a different person tomorrow, it's 100% for that person you are tomorrow, but more than 100% for the person you are today. Every time you give 100%, you unlock some potential within yourself. Because you expose yourself to yourself completely. And in doing that, there's newfound wisdom, newfound understanding of who you are. If you stand in that space, you can reach further. But if you're only given 80%, you can reach further, but it's not going to stretch you because there's still 20% left in the tank that you weren't using. So you're just going to reach for that 20% that's already within your capacity. But if you're given 100%, there's nothing left in the tank. So you reaching further is you becoming more.
That's dope. To see in that perspective.
That's why you should get everything you have all the time. Because that's the only way to inspire yourself. Unless you don't know. If you feel like 80 is 100, then maybe it is for you at that moment. And tomorrow, who knows? Next week, you may hit 90, and that's like 100 to you. But you don't really know what the 100 is, but you're reaching further. When you really max out at that 100, you're gonna know. Because you're gonna feel a level of exhaustion and gratitude that you've never felt before. And you're gonna see a reward, like in physical, that you've never seen before. It may not be the same reward as you actually won the game. It'll be a better reward because it's more about who you are and less about validation that society is giving you. It's validation that the universe is giving you. And that's a different level. Because sometimes you can win the game at 80%. Maybe you're just more talented than the opponent. You don't need to give 100% to win. You can do just enough. And that just enough might be 80% of your capacity. But you're not going to grow from that. As a human, you don't grow from that. Meaning you're not stretching yourself. You can gain some wisdom from that. Perhaps the wisdom that you'll gain is, maybe I should give 100% at all times now. Although I can get by with the 80. Because I've been giving 80 for the past 5, 6, 10 years. And I don't feel any shift internally. Yeah, some things have shifted externally. The scenery has changed. And I'm enough at 80% to maintain this newfound scenery. But I want to really see what my capacity is. I want to see what that feels like. I want to see what that brings. And when you actually push yourself to 100% of your capacity, you achieve things you never could have imagined beyond just scenery. But even that, the scenery itself is something that you probably couldn't have imagined. You hear it all the time with people who have made it to a certain level because they're given 100% of their capacity. That they could have never imagined that it would play out like this. They could have never imagined being blessed to this extent.
I saw this interview. I don't even know who do this, to be honest. He just chills with a lot of athletes. I think he's like he has like a lot of brand endorsement deals. He's like a facilitator in their business. Very influential guy. And he was like, don't fear failure. Fail never trying. Thought that was pretty, yeah, kind of hit it right on the nose.
Yeah.
Because that is funny, like a lot of people encourage like entrepreneurship, like go for it. But there are risks to it.
Yeah, but the most interesting part of that is you experience those risks anyway. You take those risks anyway. You can be more calculated with it, which you should be as calculated as you possibly can. But there's a risk in doing it, and there's a risk in not doing it. What's more fulfilling? Because you cannot do it, and rest assured that whatever it is that you dream of won't happen. We can try to do it. Maybe you won't make it, but maybe you will. And is that maybe you will worth it to actually take the risk consciously at that moment? Because oftentimes the risks that we perceive to be big risks are the risks we take anyway. We just stretch it out. Right? You can invest $100,000 today, or you can invest $10,000 over the next 10 years. Still $100K. Actually, it's more than $100K in 10 years. Because a dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow. And that's oftentimes why regret is more expensive than quote unquote failure is. Because you pay more for it in the future. You pay more for your actions or your lack thereof in the future.
And would that also be the reason why people procrastinate?
What would be the reason?
You don't pay it now, you pay it in the future.
Yeah. That helps people to justify it. Kicking a can down the road, fronting the bill to tomorrow. Because in a lot of our minds, tomorrow is an illusion. It's not real yet. You never really get the opportunity to live in tomorrow. You only get the opportunity of living in the now. So as much as we know it's there, to a degree, it isn't. Because you never get to live there. And if you never get to live there, then it's not really coming. Only today is real. And only yesterday is real. Because you've experienced it. Which is why Oftentimes we say, see yourself as the person you want to be. That means you have to inject yourself into the future. And that way you make the future real to you. Because otherwise, it isn't. And because it's not, you don't strategically pursue certain activity that helps your future to look differently than it would if you continue not perceiving the future as a reality. So, yes. One of the reasons for procrastination could be because of this illusion of time. That you have time. But yet tomorrow's not promised. But is tomorrow real? Because we only get to live in today. So the urgency is not there. So you don't try. Or maybe you'll try tomorrow. If tomorrow comes. Which will really be today. By the time you experience it. It's just a perpetuating cycle.
I understand it. It does sometimes feel a bit double when there's no such thing as tomorrow. But still, somehow, you are building for the future.
That's because there is a such thing as tomorrow. You just don't get to experience it until today. That's also why they say the future started yesterday. Because what you do in the past is what determines your current reality. And at some point, your current reality dictating your actions will impact your future. But you don't see your future in the physical until you get there. That's why you have to imagine it. The future is today, tomorrow. And it'll always be like that. Until we learn time travel. We gotta get this part down first before we can time travel. Chances are.
Spirituality having this.
Spirituality is everything. Spirituality is accountability. Understanding that you've been given everything that you need for you to fulfill your particular mission in this lifetime. What mission is that? The one you decide. And understanding that it adds pressure and alleviates the pressure at the same time. Is there a mission for your life? Of course there is. If you care to acknowledge it. You're an extension of source energy. And you can tap in to source energy. As a human, having a human experience. But as a human, having human experiences, there's work required to tap into it. There's work required to reach a place of purity in order to enter the realm of infinite intelligence, or tap into the realm of infinite intelligence. But there isn't this concept of God being human-like. There isn't this concept of God being a man, or God being a woman, or God being jealous, or the devil, or hell. There really isn't that concept in spirituality. You can create your own hell. One of the ways of doing it is not controlling your mind. And letting society dictate who you should be and how you should be and what you should be, why you should be what you are, as opposed to you deciding. You can experience suffering or you can experience joy. It's all based on your perception of reality. And yes, there are some very intense experiences that people encounter throughout the course of their lives. That each individual gets to label those experiences at their own discretion. There is no such thing as a negative experience. There's only an experience. You decide whether it's negative or not. And to help you understand that, there's a lot of contrast in life. That helps you to understand who you are, who you aren't. Did your mother have you? Yes. But did you choose for her to be your mom? Or was that divine intervention? But if you're an extension of God, wouldn't that choice be divine intervention that you made? If you chose your parent, should you be angry with them about the experiences of being their child? It's a very different reality when you look at things that way. Then there's no one to blame. So it becomes accountability. I can't say it's this thing or it's that thing. Then you have all these different ideas, right? These different truths, these different concepts around spirituality, like the law of attraction. It's the same thing as you reap what you sow. It's just a more practical way of looking at the law of attraction. Sometimes for some people, the law of attraction is too theoretical, it's too abstract. So what religion can do is religion can make it more practical for people. Using figures within a religious practice as those who truly understand their connection to God, truly understand themselves being an extension of God and the power that comes along with that. So much so that when a crew of men are on a boat and there's a bad storm and the boat is really small and there's a lot of them on it. And they're thinking, man, there's so much water, we're not going to get through this. How can we get through this? And then someone on the boat stands up and starts walking on the water. And it's like, oh, should we be afraid of something we can walk on? But under what condition can you walk on it? You gotta believe. Okay. That's someone who understands that they're an extension. Never saying, I am that. I'm the son of that. The son being the extension of that. Not that itself. It's a miracle, quote unquote. But when you tap into the power that comes along with you being the extension of something so great, quote unquote miracles are just a standard activity for you. It's easier to see that in religion than it may be to see in spirituality. Spirituality is everything. There's no aspect of life that exists without spirituality. There's no aspect of energy that exists without spirituality. Because all of it is spiritual. Because it's such a small percentage of any energy that is matter. The vast majority of anything is just energy. That's all spirit. That's my perception of it. That's been my experience with it. And that's not to invalidate anyone who is a religious person. However you get to know God, get to know God. If God is a he to you, I have no problem with that. God is a she to you, I have no problem with that. If God is black, white, whatever, I have no problem with that. There are implications of that, especially if you're trying to teach that or force that upon the world. There are implications of that. So I would hope that people are cautious in what they believe in and who they choose to follow. With me being a spiritual person, it's not knocking anyone who chooses to be a religious person.
You said earlier that your mission in life or your purpose, you decide that yourself. You don't believe in like some sort of predestination.
Yeah. But if you choose the experience you want to have, you also chose that yourself. That's why fate and free will are both real. If my fate is my destiny, and my destiny is premeditated, then what's the value of free will? You already chose this destiny. You had the free will to choose this destiny. You did that. And you have the free will to choose the activity that leads you to that destiny. They both exist.
You said earlier about belief. One of my favorite movies, The Matrix.
Mhm.
At the end of the first part, it was kind of like he was the chosen one all along.
Mhm.
The only thing that really made it possible for him to defeat the agents at the end was him believing.
Mhm.
Him believing that he was the one.
Absolutely. First Matrix is the best one. But the third Matrix, the end of the third Matrix is the more powerful one to me. Because then you have source energy being exposed to him. Right? You have the actual source coming up and him lifting up to the source, and now they face to face. And you can see how grand source is and how small he is. And accepting that he's a part of source energy, using that power to say, I'm gonna change this reality. And right at the end, when it seemed like all of the people were doomed, everything shifted. The beauty of life. One of the most amazing parts about life. You can wake up tomorrow and decide to be someone completely different. And everything in your life will shift. But when do you see the light? Typically during a traumatic experience. During that traumatic experience, he still believed. But that trauma exposed him to a level of himself that he hadn't seen before. And all things shifted. That is really it. Right? It's one thing to see it at this small level that seems amazing because you've never done that before. Right? People are shooting at you and you can literally just stop the bullet. Like Morpheus told him. He was like, you mean I can stop bullets or dodge bullets with my own, just my own body? It's like, when you believe, you won't have to. You won't have to dodge bullets. You can just, and he did. When he believed, he just, nothing could touch him. And when he couldn't see anymore, source energy was still very clear to him. He saw it, even though he was blind. And it came to him. It came to him. There's so much symbolic importance in that movie. He didn't have to chase it down, he didn't have to pursue it, none of it. It came to him. While everybody else was afraid. What does being the one mean? Just acknowledging your power. That's it. And we all have guidance in life that can help us do that. The question is, are you going to listen to it? Are you going to take the risk? And that was the beginning of the movie, red pill, blue pill. Are you going to take the risk? And what happens as soon as you take the risk? There's an obstacle. And it seems like that obstacle is chasing you. What is that in that movie? The agents. He was cool. He took the pill. They were on him instantly. He thought it was a dream at first. So one of the people in his squad came and get him and took that alien out of his belly button. He was like, I thought that was just a dream. Yeah, of course you did. That's how it was meant to be. And until you face it, until he stopped running from the agents, there wasn't really a whole lot of motivation for him to believe. Then when he believed, the agents were running from him. That's life. Very spiritual movie. You gotta plug in, unplug. What's that? Consciousness, subconscious. But how do you make it one thing? That's the last film. He wasn't plugged in anymore. He was doing those same things consciously. He was blending the subconscious with the conscious. It became one. That's life. Are you and your subconscious on one? Is your conscious and your subconscious on one accord? Excuse me. And when it is, you want to stop it. When it's not, you have some conflict. Your subconscious is going to win until you start to be able to reprogram it slowly but surely. When it's on one accord, you're in constant flow. Constant flow. You know when it happens. You know when you just wake up and you just get out of it's automatic. You're just out of bed, in the shower. Everything is just flowing. You leave your house, it's a beautiful day. It was raining when you woke up. When you walked outside, it was a beautiful day. You get in the car, you drive, and you pull out. Every light is green. Nobody's just jumping in the streets. No. You get to work, the parking spot is right there. You go into the building, the elevator's at the bottom floor, right there just waiting for you. You go upstairs, everything is already clean. They happen to buy donuts today for the whole office. You decide, I don't want no donuts, I gotta focus on my mission. That's cool. They got a mixed salad here too. Freshly squeezed orange juice. Everything is going. And then there's those days where nothing is going. You woke up, the sun was shining. You walked outside, it was pouring. Do you still believe though? The universe is going to test if you're really that person. Not for the universe, to show you, to expose you to you. So that when you don't make it at that very moment, you know why. Not because you're a boss and he was, she was showing some favoritism no. Because when they did what they did, which you label as favoritism, you cracked. And you were no longer that person, or no longer demonstrating the qualities of that person that you were proclaiming to be in order to get this position. That's why you didn't get it. It's all believing. It's all spiritual. It's all the universe giving you an opportunity to expose you to you. And that's typically happening through contrast.
When you say the subconscious and the conscious merging, do you mean that you're aware of your subconscious? Or are you in control of your subconscious?
I mean that your subconscious mind no longer conflicts with your conscious mind.
What does that mean?
That means consciously you say you want to be successful. But subconsciously you repeat every reason as to why you aren't going to be successful. Which brings about habits of failure. And that's why you fail in real life.
So how do you counteract that?
You don't counteract that. You can try to, but it typically doesn't work because your subconscious mind controls 95% of your life, 95% of your actions. You can consciously say, if I get into this type of situation, I'm going to behave like this. But the fact that you even attract that type of situation is your subconscious mind. So granted, yeah, you may get into that situation and behave that way. But notice you keep getting into that situation. If your subconscious is aligned with your conscious mind, then you're in flow, naturally. Right? There's no conflict. If those two minds are not aligned, then you're in conflict. It's harder to train the subconscious mind than it is to train the conscious one. The conscious one, you can shift that one pretty quickly, relatively speaking. The subconscious mind takes some real work. And there are different processes that a person can use to go about training their subconscious mind. One of them, positive affirmations. So people try to use incantations to train their subconscious mind. It's not true in the beginning, of course, but you try your best to attach some emotion to it as much as you can. Because it's only when you attach emotion to what you're saying that your subconscious mind begins to pay attention to it. Without any emotion, it doesn't really matter. Your subconscious mind is not really like talking to a person who's reasoning with what you're saying. Subconscious mind is like talking to a tape recorder. You gotta learn how to reprogram the tape, not just stand in front of the radio saying things, thinking that somehow the radio is gonna start playing what you're saying. That's an analogy that Bruce Lipton used, by the way. So, biologist talks a lot about the subconscious mind. He has some amazing content, books as well. Oftentimes see content, it's like online content, but books in addition to online content. Used to be a professor. I started feeling like everything was full of shit. So he stopped.
But alright, writing affirmations. What else can you do to get your subconscious aligned with your conscious?
It's everything that's aligned with that. positive affirmation. Say it, write it, think it consistently, repeat it to yourself consistently. If there are different moments in the day where you're more likely to train your subconscious mind than you're not. Just like your body, when should you train? When should you eat? There are certain times of the day that you should do that. It doesn't work the same way just because you're ready to go to the gym at 3 o'clock as opposed to 9 o'clock. There are certain times of the day that you get more out of your body than other times. Just like there's certain times of the day your body can digest food better than other times. Yeah. It's the same thing with your subconscious mind. At what time of the day can you program your subconscious mind easier than you can do it during other times of the day? It's the same approach. It's the same level of detail that matters with everything that you're doing. Meditate, journal, incantations. What do you listen to? What do you watch? What kind of people do you put yourself around? What do they do? What do they listen to? What do they watch? How do they speak? Language is a very big part. Movement is a very big part. Oftentimes people don't have the emotion because they're not in motion. So what should you be doing with your body when you're saying these incantations? Move your body. What do you believe in? Why do you believe in it? Where did that belief system come from? How do you reprogram yourself so that you can have a new belief? What is the new belief that you want to have? Yeah. This is the work. Which is why it's work. It's not just saying I'm going to change my mind and then it changes. It's actual work involved. Maybe the challenge today, at least what I'm finding, is that we live in a Google era. It seems that people are having a harder time looking within themselves because we've grown so accustomed to being able to Google everything we want to know. Where the things that we should want to know most are the things we can't Google. Those are the more important things. So if you know something is wrong and you're not able to find it on Google, where else do you go? What were people doing before Google? Your mom is not going to tell you every answer. Your grandmother, your grandfather is not going to tell you every answer. What do you do when you're looking for answers? You can't read all the books in the library. Reading is very important. So who do you turn to? Yourself. But there seems to be no trust in self. Everybody's looking for somebody to tell them the answer, Google and everything. What about you? What do you think? What do you think? When was the last time you sat with yourself and thought, what do I think? What am I really feeling? What is this feeling an indication of? Not trying to Google it. Important. If you are really an extension of source energy, even if you believe in God from a religious perspective, when are you going to look into yourself? Where's God's voice the loudest for you? In you. somehow we're losing sight of that. We're losing touch with that. And it's for me, even it's important to remain sensitive to them. Because it's almost foreign to me, especially when I look at someone who's 20, 25, and they're looking everywhere else but to themselves for answers. It seems very weird to me. I know that it's happening, and I can rationalize why it's happening that way. Don't underestimate you, because no one is going to give you the answer for your life, because no one has that answer. Even working as a coach, I don't proclaim to have the answer for other people's lives. Only you have the answer to your life. Perhaps I can help you find it, but I can't give it to you. Google can't give it to you. Simon Sinek can't give it to you. Tony Robbins can't give it to you. You have to find it. You have to give it to you. Lisa Nichols is not going to give it to you. E.T., the hip hop preacher, is not going to give it to you. Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, Bob Prop, all the big names, they're not going to give it to you. Jim Rohn is not going to give it to you. You have to give it to yourself. And that self-reliance, that work that's required, that goes beyond what you can do with your physical hands, what you can do within the physical realm, seems to be lost, seems to be misunderstood, seems to be missing in the consciousness of younger people today, and even some older ones. What do you think?
Do you think mindfulness is like for everyone?
Definitely.
That's what it's dawning on me is like, you want people to live a very mindful life.
I'm sorry?
You want people to live a very mindful life.
I don't want people to live that way. I think nature requires that. If you want to have what you say you want to have. Unless you're fortunate enough to just be naturally aligned, and I have to be mindful about it.
That to me sounds like a detour to say you want people to be mindful.
What I'm saying is, it's not about what I want. Who cares what I want? To be honest. In light of this conversation, I don't even care what I want. I care what I want enough for me, not enough for somebody else's life. So if it were just up to me, I just want you to live the way you want to live. I just want people to understand why they may not be getting the things that they say they want to have based on the way that they want to live. How that can be a mismatch. That's all. It's not necessarily trying to change people's minds about what they want. I don't actually decide anything that anybody should want. People come to me based on what they want. And I don't go to them based on what I think they should want, because of what I want. What I want is irrelevant for anybody else's life. Some people are looking for money. So, to answer your question more directly, no, I don't want people to live a more mindful life.
What do you hope to get out of this coaching?
What do I hope to get? Truth. For people to acknowledge their true identity. Build lives and businesses around that. For people to see the real leader within themselves and have the confidence to pursue their passions. Because I do believe that the world would be a better place if everyone were actually standing in their purpose consciously. And I think it'd be different for the better.
Around what time did you figure out yours?
I figured out a metaphor for it when I was about 9. I would say somewhere around college, somewhere in that 4.5 year experience. I figured out what it was more directly.
So before college, you know, like, what does that mean, a metaphor for it?
I wanted to be a rapper. That was a metaphor for inspiring others to find a leader within themselves and having the confidence to pursue their passions. That was a metaphor for coaching. It entertains you, trains you. Even for me, I remember wearing clothes because Jay-Z said it was cool to wear those clothes. Maybe if Jay-Z would have told me about consciousness, I would have pursued consciousness as someone who didn't know about consciousness. Not me, Halik, but someone else. Maybe if your favorite artist said something enlightening, it would change your life. I saw music doing that for people, including myself. I wanted to have that same effect on others. But I also wanted to be cool. And cool to me was being significant. Being significant was this thing that I was doing for others, this symbol that I would be for others. Thinking that if I was that symbol, then I would get love. I was pursuing love through significance as an abandoned person. The only thing in my life that was consistent that I felt never abandoned me was music. So I would be that same gift to others. I would create music. I was a why child. I was a child that was asking his parent why, all day. After a while, parents become annoyed with that. Music was never annoyed. Every time I replayed the tape, Pac said the same thing the same way. Never did he seem annoyed on the tape because I played the tape again. Seeking more understanding, so I was listening to the same thing over and over again, thinking about what he was talking about. Well, my parents seemed annoyed by the fact that I was asking them the same question over and over, trying to really process what they were saying. So I thought I would be the next generation's Tupac. That was a metaphor for coaching, rapping. By the time I was 9, I had that idea about me being a rapper. Even though I wanted options and I wanted to be the symbol of options. That's why I went to college. You don't have to go to college to become a rapper. Definitely don't have to study engineering to become a rapper. But subconsciously, I wanted to show my family, you don't have to do or be the norm. You can do impressive things. So not only did I go to college and graduate, I thought I'm going to study a very hard discipline. I would argue being an engineering student, any type of engineering student, of course all engineers are not created equal. It's the same for the discipline. But if we look at the discipline of engineering overall, that's the hardest undergrad experience you're going to have. Whatever else you're studying is going to be easy compared to that. Of course, unless you have a mind for engineering. But if you have a mind for engineering, you're probably going to be bored with other things. So I wanted to do the hard thing to prove to my family that you can do it too. You don't have to be a rapper. You don't have to be a basketball player. You could be something else, even though I wanted to be a rapper. I figured out the metaphor when I was about 9. I figured out the mission my collegiate years. Which is to orchestrate greatness by being an example of what that could mean for me. And because greatness means something different to everyone, it was less about what greatness meant and more about the recipe for greatness. And sharing what I thought the recipe for greatness was with the world in practical ways, in ways that are not only theoretical, and being able to have conversations with people where I can show them and speak to them about the ways in which that applies to them in their lives uniquely. Ultimately, to show that it's not really that unique. You think that there's a big difference between you and the person that you believe to be extraordinary, but there really isn't. You're more alike than you are different. So if you know anyone who's done anything extraordinary, you could be the next person you know that does something extraordinary as well. But not just say that. Not just give motivation. Not that there's anything wrong with motivation. We all could use some. That wasn't my goal. My goal wasn't to only motivate people, but give them true inspiration by holding their hand through the process of transformation, not doing it for them. I can't transform you for you. But I can be a source of inspiration throughout the process. I can help guide you through the process that I've been through before myself. For example, I don't teach how to become a millionaire. I'm not a millionaire yet. When I become a millionaire, I'll speak to millionaires more often and other people who are interested in becoming millionaires. And perhaps we can talk more about the mindset attached to that, as well as the practical steps, as well as my individual story, as well as the theory that supports it. Meaning the business concepts that support it. In the meantime, I can speak to you about just about everything else leading up to that within reason. Not necessarily having conversations with people about having a disability and still being in pursuit of the same things that I may be in pursuit of right now. That's not a conversation that I can have from a place of experience. But I can have the conversation of being someone who had a disadvantage and still making it to a certain level in life and continuously pursuing new levels, higher levels. If that's something that a disabled person is interested in, I'd be more than happy for us to hold hands as well. That's what I expect to do.